All right, folks, so I'm just going to show you a real quick breakdown of how I'm doing the planting as far as shovel work and moving dirt. And as I do it, I'll talk and explain what I'm doing as I go along. Sorry for the funky camera angle. I don't have a tripod just yet, and so I'm sitting it on the handle of the wheelbarrow, so it's got a little angle, but you'll get the idea. All right, so I'm gonna get down, maybe down here you can see me. So of course we have our line is kind of moved now that we've been planting. However, this stake is our spot. This is where we want this blackberry bush to be. And so generally we want that to be in the center of the circle. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take my blackberry bush, I'm gonna sit it out of the way for right now. There's my line. And simply, if you imagine the bottom of the pot, you want to make a hole, probably, as this is my planting method, everybody does it differently, but you want to make a hole probably 1.5 to 2 times the size of the bottom of the pot. So if I imagine the center of the bottom of this pot is exactly where that stick is in the ground, then I'm going to make a hole about here, would probably be the width of it. So I'm going to go probably about here, so it's got some fresh loose dirt all around. And you'll see me talk about the loose dirt in just a minute once we get that done. But one thing I do when I'm planting is I go ahead and use my spade to go ahead and remove the grass in the whole area. And you'll see me when I'm doing that, and it leaves perfectly good grass clumps. So if I ever need to fill in another hole, I've already got a patch of grass. And I actually have an area in my driveway that I've filled a hole in where it used to fill up with water in another video. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of these patches of grass, I'm going to remove a little bit of that soil that I put on there and put those patches, and it'll go ahead and advance that process of growing grass in that area and not make it as likely to get as many weeds, and go ahead and get this centipede in there. So I'm going to take my spade, find the line where I want it, so probably right about there. And of course I'm going to put some weight on it, and I'm going to follow that line. And the curve of the shovel kind of helps you a little bit, and you're just going to make your circle. And then lastly, I have this one little point left, and what I'm going to do is go through it, and this time I'm going to wedge all the way up, slide my shovel under there, and ta-da, if Edison would move, ta-da, you have a nice perfectly flat dirt clump and fresh dirt underneath. And for planting this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take this and lean it, and some of this dirt, this topsoil, is full of nutrients compared to our clay level is pretty high around here. Edison, watch out, buddy, watch out. So, did you eat dirt? He wants to help dig. But our clay level is pretty high, so I like to keep a lot of this topsoil in there for when I'm putting it back around the pot. But I'll just break some of that off. If not a lot comes off, it's not a big problem. There's plenty of dirt to play with, and our pot is of course going to fill most of the hole. So I'm going to take this and move it just over to the side, and then now you see I've already got a root. Just toss those out of the way. What I'm going to do is follow that same line that I just made and just go straight down. So as I'm doing this, you'll see I'll get a full, once I have enough fresh dirt to get a full shovel full, I'll go ahead and pick it up, and into the wheelbarrow it goes. And the reason why I put it in the wheelbarrow is if you've ever planted, if you just pile your dirt to the side, sometimes what can happen is a lot of that loose dirt gets down in the grass and it's hard to find, and it's almost like your dirt disappears and you don't even have enough to fill the hole back in or to even plant the plant. And there's a little gap to the side, and so that gets on my nerves, so I just make it easy and put it in the wheelbarrow. But as I go around, I'm gonna keep doing that. You'll see in just a second that what I'm going to keep doing is following this wall and keeping the hole the same diameter that it is at the top. If I were to just keep digging like this, the only thing I'm going to do is make a cone, like a funnel inwards, and the center is going to be skinnier than the top. And so I want it to be the same dimensions all the way down. So I'm going to get my fresh dirt out, and what you'll see me do is, since all this dirt is hard packed and it's really hard because we had some rain recently, I'll take my shovel and I'll just stab it. And you see, all stabbing it does is just turns it up almost like a blender. And now I've got all this fresh dirt that I can get out of the way. Edison's helping dig. Go ahead, buddy. Go for it. Get some. Soften up that dirt for me. Good boy. All right, watch out. All right. So, now that I've got the depth about the size of the pot, so I'm going to make sure my walls are all even. And I'm going to show you real fast what I'm talking about. All right. So, now that I've gotten the hole, watch out. Now that I've gotten the hole about the depth of the pot, a little bit deeper, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my shovel, and just like earlier, where I showed you about chopping the dirt to make it soft, I'm going to do the same thing, except this time I'm not going to remove it. And the reason why I'm doing that is because roots, especially like fruit roots, and when you're planting trees, when they are getting in the ground to ground itself here to make this spot in the ground its home, it's a lot easier for the plant itself if it's got some soft dirt around it. So while I'm chopping up the bottom, you also see me poke the sides a little bit just to soften it up and to give this guy a little bit easier of a life, at least getting started off and getting himself set in this spot. So I'm going to put you back on the stand, and we'll get to doing that. All right. So now you see what I'm talking about. You see how the bottom was hard before, and now it's just got a couple inches of just soft dirt. This soft dirt, these couple of inches of soft dirt will really help it get settled real fast. What, buddy? I know I'm not letting you dig right now. You can do the next one. All right, so let's get the plant in the ground. All right, so now that it's time, we've got all that soft dirt ready for this guy. It's time to get him in the ground. So the process for removing this plant from the pot, some people will cut, like with plastic pots like this, or the ones that are a little bit thinner, like the trees come in, you'll just cut it down the side, and you can do that. That's just fine. This dirt, I actually haven't watered it today yet, and so it's kind of dry, but when they sit in a pot like this for a while, it'll form its clump, and the shape, it'll almost keep the shape of this pot, especially if it's nice and dry. And so what I'm going to do is I'm not going to lift vertically on this, because there's a chance with this being such a young plant that I might separate this stem here from the root ball that's under the ground. And that is not what I want to do, because that could easily kill this plant, or at least diminish its growth in the first year or so a lot, because it's going to be focused on getting roots back because I removed all of them. So what I'm simply going to do is use the web of my hand, and I'm going to go right there and put the plant in the web like that. And so the rest of my hand can hold this dirt. And so I'm going to go over the hole in case I spill any. And I'm just going to gently wiggle, and it'll slide right out just like that. And so now I've got an empty pot. Make sure all that dirt's in there because it's got some good nutrients. Set my pot to the side, and all I'm going to do is sit that ball right in there. Some people will go and soften this up. I really don't like to, because when I do it, I feel myself breaking roots. And I think this plant, if you look at the side, most all of them they've already got roots up against the edge. There's not really that much that I need to do to loosen this up. He'll do that himself, and that's why I gave him so much loose dirt around. He'll get it done. So now that I've got the plant in the ground, centered, I'm gonna make sure it's level. Look from at least 2 different sides, and I'm gonna make sure it's pretty vertical. If not, I can of course just pick this root ball up and flatten the dirt out on the bottom, level it out, and sit it back down, and it's level. All right, so now all my dirt that I've put in the wheelbarrow to keep it separate, now I'm gonna take that and I'm gonna fill in this hole right here. But I'm not gonna pack it down hard, and you'll see that while I'm doing it. So just a side note, I will add here real fast. You can see I've got a different berry bush in front of me. Some people, when they are filling in around the plant, what they'll do is they'll take like black cow or some other type of compost or potting soil that's been fertilized, and they'll fill it in with that, and they'll even put a layer underneath, and that is just fine. And I support people doing that. I mean, give your plant as much as you think it needs to thrive. I'm not doing that right now, being as I have so many plants to get in the ground right now, and also some outside circumstances. But I really, what I'm trying to get to you guys is that these plants are so resilient. Not just these, but all plants. And so what you'll find is you can do that, and it may give your plant the jump start that it needs. But in my experience, you don't really need it. This plant, it may take just a little bit longer to grow that extra inch, but it will, and it doesn't really need all of that extra money that you've got to put into it. If you're on a tight budget and all you want to do is grow some fruit in your yard, or even have some pretty flowers next to your house, you don't have to follow up with all the expensive potting soil and driving hours to get compost if you live in city limits or something like that. It'll be just fine with regular soil. So don't think that you have to, but I'm not saying you shouldn't. Anyways, let's get back to it. All right then. Now I've got a pot. I've just used this pot just to diminish the number of times I got to pull dirt out of the wheelbarrow. But I've broken all these clumps up, the big hand-sized clumps, into little balls. It'll be all right either way. But I've got this dirt, and all I'm simply gonna do, and it's pretty self-explanatory, is just go around and fill this hole in. And he's already got soft dirt underneath, and now he's getting soft dirt on all his sides. And I'm gonna keep doing that until this whole thing is a little bit over level, and I'll explain that in just a minute. All right, so I've got the rest of my dirt. I'm gonna keep filling in, keep going around. I'm gonna need one more pot to get this done. And here we go, last pot. All right, so now that I've got all of this level, I could stop and leave it right here, and it's level with the ground. But the problem that you'll see is, because all of this dirt is loose and we haven't packed it down, as time goes on with rain and wind and all of the other elements, this will slowly settle down, and it will get hard packed like the rest of the ground. It'll take some time, but what you'll see happen if you don't put any more dirt on here and you just leave it level is that this will start to sink in as that settles down, and you'll have a little hole around your plant. And what can end up happening, and it's really not healthy for a lot of plants, is that it can make just a big puddle, and that can put a lot of water on it, and it can end up drowning your plants. And to anybody who doesn't know a lot about planting, you can actually drown plants and kill them, because of course they need water just like humans do, but they don't need to be underneath water at all times. So that's why floods kill a lot of greenery, is because you can overwater plants, you can drown them. So I'm going to take the rest of my dirt and I'm going to come just around the plant, trying to avoid covering up any leaves. And I'm just gonna make a little mound. And if you cover up a few leaves at the bottom, that's just fine. The main growth that this plant really needs is primary, which is going to be vertical. And of course, it's got secondary growth going sideways. If you take any general biology class, you know that. But we're just going to make sure there's no big clumps. And since we've got a mound around it, what this will do is the plant will still get all of the water it needs. The water will still go through this dirt and absorb into it, but all of that excess will run off to the sides, and we don't have to worry about this getting drowned or overwatered. And at the same time, as time goes by, as this mound goes down and down, then it probably, with this much dirt, will end up being close to level. But I won't ever let it get level, because what I'm going to do, and you'll see this in a future episode, is I'm going to get some compost and some chips, and I'm going to pile them around all my plants. And I'll go into the science behind that a little bit later too. But this planting method is so simple, and it has worked since I was a child. And so some people may not agree with it, and that's just fine. You do you. But all I know is that wildlife in general, especially plants, even the animals, they can thrive and adapt to circumstances that are not perfect. And you can see that from them not getting sunlight on a perfect schedule, them not getting water or food on a perfect schedule. They still make it work. And so plants are extremely resilient. And so something like this is just a simple planting method. And of course, I'm going to follow this up with just watering it in, giving it an adequate amount of water until this dirt right here isn't necessarily holding water, but it is very saturated. And this plant will thrive. Like I said, I've done this planting method since I was a child, and it has worked every single time. So I'm going to keep doing this, and I'm going to do this with all of my berry bushes. But this planting method works for everything, from berry bushes to trees to seedlings, even to potatoes. Everything that you would want to plant in the ground, this planting method should just about make it work. So I'm going to keep going, and I hope you guys learned something. I am glad that I was taught this as a kid, and I can transfer it on to older people, because the whole point of this channel is for somebody to learn with me, because I love doing stuff with my hands. I love seeing what I've done and it creating something good. And so I'm so glad that somebody may be watching this video, and that you may be able to learn with me, and we'll learn together as we go along. So I'm gonna cut over to the next part of the video, and thank you so much for joining.